What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mount MoGraph. As usual, my name is Matt, and in today's video, we're making something called Hyperglitch. This is Summit 21. Here, let me make this full screen for you. I was feeling a little crazy today, so this video is pretty nuts, but I hope you guys like it. Check it out. Alright, well, I'll just pause it there. I just had it loop for a while. So basically, let me just go through this a little bit slower for you guys. This was all done in After Effects, and it's like a glitchy effect. I think it looks cool. It's a little modern, little abstract, but I had a lot of fun making it. And I think you guys will definitely learn a couple really cool tricks. So we'll go ahead and jump into After Effects and get this going. So let's go ahead and create a new composition. Command N on your keyboard and just set it for a duration of 10 seconds. Should be fine. I'm going to just pick a random color for my background, and I'm going to call this base square. And this is going to involve a lot of comps, but it is going to turn out really cool. So anyway, on our base square layer, let's just create actually a solid layer. And we're gonna call this BG, and I'm gonna put hidden as the rest of the title here. And why we're gonna do this is, and then also right click your layer and just set it as a guide layer right here. So when we put it in another comp, it won't be there. I should have just made the background for this video instead of this light blue a dark one, but whatever, I forgot to. So anyway, let's go ahead and press Q on your keyboard to bring up your square tools or your rectangle tool. And we are going to now click this fill and make sure it is set to none. We don't want to fill for this. And on your stroke, let's pick a darkish red. I think that'll look cool. So I will pick just that kind of red. And let's scale up our stroke width. I'm going to turn mine up to 51 and just see how that's looking. So I'll just scale this up. All right, and once again, this move anchor point script I will be using. I'll put it in the video description below. If you don't have it and you want to download it, I recommend it for pretty much everything in After Effects. It's great. So I'll be using that. So I'm just going to click in the middle to center my anchor point on my square layer. And then I'll just also center this in the middle of my composition and just keep things nice and even. So let's start by, we're going to have it scale up. I actually think this is a little bit too large, so I'm going to scale it down a little bit. And I will also go into my properties here, and I think I'm going to turn my stroke width up as well. So I'm going to turn it up. That looks better to me. So I turn my stroke width up to 88. So I'm going to call this layer square, or red square. And what we're going to do is just go forward to 1 second here on our timeline. Press Q on your keyboard to cycle through your primitive objects or your shape layers. And we are going to be doing a circle, also with a stroke here. But I think I'm going to do a stroke of maybe like 20 instead of 55. And I'm just going to draw a circle here. And let's see. I'll also center my anchor point and center it in the middle of my composition. So I'm going to scale up my shape layer just a little bit of my circle until it's just about on the outside of our composition. Make sure not to go over it. So I'm going to call this a red circle. And what we're going to do is holding command, just click your little arrow over here to twirl down all your properties. And we are going to go over into our stroke right here, and we are going to click this button to add dashes to our stroke of our red circle. And what we're going to do is just turn our dashes up. We don't want as many. I'm going to turn it up to, let's see what I like. That should be fine. So I turned mine up to 76, and yours will probably be somewhat similar, or really whatever you want it to look like. I like how that looks. All right, so now what I'm going to do is pick whip my red circle to my red square and just set it as a child. And I'll also move this timeline out a little bit if I can. Okay, no, I won't. The little arrow is not popping up. All right, well, never mind. Moving on. So we're set at 1 second. Let's go into our square properties. Press S on your keyboard to bring up your scale. Sorry, and we're going to set a keyframe. And then we're going to go backwards to maybe 2 frames on our timeline, and we're going to scale this down to 0. So our circle should also change if you pick whipped it to your red square like we just did. So then I'll play it and it'll pop up. We will select both those keyframes and press F9 on your keyboard to make it easy ease. Let's go into our graph editor and change your graph type over to a speed graph, and then also just make it so it fits the graph to view. I'm going to just highlight this side and drag my Bezier handle in as much as I can. Whoa, I actually took it off the line a little bit. So I'm going to try to keep it on that line and drag it all the way to the middle, and grab the other side and drag that to the middle. So this is going to make a very fast and abrupt pop in. Let's see. All right, perfect. And then it's going to slow down. So it's going to come in real slowly and then all of a sudden pop in, and then it's going to slow down. So that looks nice. Now let's also set a rotation keyframe. So just press K on your keyboard to go forward to the most recent keyframe, if that's making sense. Sorry, and press R on your keyboard to bring up your rotation properties and set a keyframe. Press U on your keyboard to bring up your properties, and press J on your keyboard to go back to the most previous keyframe, so right here. And what we're going to do is just type in 45 degrees. And now when it pops in, it's going to turn. I'm actually going to set that to -45. I think that'll look better. So I'm going to do -45 degrees. And then I'm also going to select these 2 keyframes and press F9 on my keyboard. Go into my graph editor right here. Fit all the graphs to view. And just drag both these handles in as much as I can go while staying on the line. So there we go. So now these will also pop in just like our other one. Let's see. Perfect. That is looking very nice. Alright, so now as it pops in, I'm going to want my red circle here. I'm going to press S on my keyboard to bring up my scale properties, set a keyframe here, and then also set another keyframe here. And what I'm going to do on this second keyframe is just scale it down until it looks like it is just about touching the circle. So right about there. Looks pretty good. So I'll just select these and press F9 on my keyboard. And just like we did before, I am going to use the Bezier handles and just really crank up my speed on here. And you can also hold space to move around in your timeline, if that is helpful for you guys. So let's see how this is looking. It pops in and shrinks down. That looks very nice. So now what we're going to want to do is let's go forward to 6 seconds. And what we're going to do now is, let me just think for a second. What are we doing here? Oh, okay. So let's set another keyframe on our red circle. And we are going to go forward to maybe 20 frames forward from 6 seconds. And we're going to scale down our red circle to 0. And select those keyframes and go into your graph editor. See how this is just going to keep repeating itself. There we go. So I'm just going to do the same thing again and just give it this really nice pop motion that'll work well with this kind of video. So that is going to pop out. So I think as that pops out, we're going to want to do something with our red square. So what I think we'll do is twirl down our properties. So hold command and click your arrow and it'll twirl down. What we're going to do is set a keyframe for our stroke width and just press U on your keyboard. So our stroke width keyframe should be at the same point as when our circle starts to pop in. And I'm just going to go forward to where our other keyframe was for our scale of our red circle and just scale our width up a lot. I'll scale it up until there's nothing in the middle. So that looks to be 476 for me. So I will highlight those and press F9 on my keyboard to make it easy ease. Go into my graph editor and fit all graphs to view. Select this side and grab my Bezier handle and pull it to the middle. Grab this side and pull it to the middle. Let's go out of our graph editor, zoom back out. So let's just check out what we've done. Nice. So this is good. We'll be adding some stuff in the middle in just a second. So this is looking pretty decent. And perfect. So then we are also going to want to rotate and scale our circle as this is happening. So let's set a scale and rotation keyframe, maybe 2 frames before the end of our stroke width, before our stroke width is this size, and we will just go forward, I don't know, maybe like another 15 frames or so. And what I'm going to do is just rotate this 45 degrees. It's going to get cut off a little bit, which is fine, because we'll also be scaling it down to 0. So we'll select both these keyframes. It's already easy ease. We'll go and click our graph editor here. Fit all graphs to view. There we go, or fit selected to view. And what we're going to do is just drag your selection marquee over both these little keyframes and just drag it out, and it'll change both at the same time. So that is good. All right. So I'm zoom back out and let's see how this is looking. So it pops in. So this is good. We'll have something there in a second. Still going. And perfect. So that is exactly what we want. So now what we're going to do is let's select our red circle and our red square, and with them both selected, do Shift Command C to pre-compose these layers. And what we're going to call this is, let's call this, we already had our base square. Actually, what we should do, I am just going to copy this layer. So copy your background hidden layer, and we're just going to drag our base square into this little composition icon right here to place our base square inside of that composition. And I'm going to call this square glitch. And I will now just do Command V on my keyboard to paste in my background, which we already have. I could have just remade it, but I wanted to keep this guide layer. I didn't want to have to select it again. So now we have our guide layer on this composition, and we have our square on the screen, which looks pretty cool. So now what we're going to want to do is grab our base square, and we are going to scale this down. Let's go to 50%. So we'll scale our composition down to 50%, and we'll just play it real quick, make sure it's all working. And so far it's looking pretty good. So now what we're going to want to do is, this is where the move anchor point is going to definitely come in handy. So just go forward till the largest your composition is, or however, when it fills the most of the window. So it looks like when this circle has come all the way in. So now what I'm going to do is just make sure none of my layers are selected, because we don't want to create a mask on them, and press Q on my keyboard to cycle through my shape layer objects until I get a rectangle tool, or I can just click and hold and select the rectangle tool. Let's click our stroke and pick no stroke and pick our fill, and we are going to set our fill to really any color. It doesn't matter. So let's just on our keyboard, or not on our keyboard, just in our comp, just drag something out. It doesn't matter that much right now. Press T on your keyboard and turn your opacity down to about 50. So I'm going to call this alpha 1. Okay, so this is where the glitch effect is cool, and pretty much after this point of the video you can not watch the rest of it if you don't want to. But there's a lot of other cool stuff that happens, but this is the basis for what I'm calling the glitch effect, and I think it looks cool. So what we're going to do is, with your alpha 1 selected, go on your move anchor point tool. This is why this script is very helpful, and click on this right side here. So we'll see our anchor point has immediately jumped to the right side of our object. So after we do that, let's select our alpha 1 and do Command D on your keyboard to copy your alpha channel. So now go into your scale properties and unclick your constrain proportions icon right here. And what we're going to do is just scale it the opposite. So we're going to go into the negative. And what this is going to do is just perfectly place another rectangle next to the rectangle we already made, if that makes sense. And I'm actually going to also move these over just a little bit more, like that looks good. So now I have this scaled up. So with alpha 2 selected, I'm going to do Command D on my keyboard to copy it. And I'm going to go and click this right side of my Move Anchor Point tool. And that should jump over to the other side. I think it did. And press S on my keyboard, and now I'm going to scale. Oh, I don't think it. Oh, I see. You actually, since now we're going from the negative, we inverted that. You're actually going to have to click the opposite side you want it to go on. So we'll just do that, and then I'll scale it up the right way. It's like a leapfrog kind of is what we're doing. So I'm going to set all these rectangles to kind of different widths. It doesn't matter that much. So do Command D one more time. And we're going to set this anchor point on the other side. Press S on your keyboard to bring up your scale properties. I'm going to drag out a really little one here. I think that should be kind of cool. Actually, maybe I'll just do a normal one. It doesn't matter. Command D one more time. Bring up your scale properties. Switch your anchor point side. That one was inverted again. And just drag it out. Okay. So now we have all these alphas. And that is nice. Now what we're going to want to do with our alpha channel selected, well, here, I'll actually show you in a second why we're going to do this. So grab your base square and do Command D on your keyboard. We're going to do it 4 times, so we have 5 copies. So you should have base square 0, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so now just alternate. We're going to drag alpha 1 above base square 0 or 1, and alpha 2 over base square 2, alpha 3 over base square 3, and alpha 4 over base square 4. Alpha 5 will keep above base square 5. Okay, so now what we're going to do is select your base square 5, 4, 3, 2, and 0. So all your compositions, none of your alphas. And we're going to go into our track matte selection and set it to alpha matte. So all of our alphas will get hidden, and we'll only be able to see what our rectangles are over. So that is helpful. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do, this is actually working fine. We'll see if there's an issue. We'll tackle that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just grab our alphas. So select alpha 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and just click your little shy switch right here. So this guy, this thing right here. Click that and it'll select it for all of them, and then click your shy, hide all layers with a shy on it. So now we will only be able to see our composition, or our compositions, I should say. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go to right before the animation stops for this first portion. So right when the circle is coming towards the square. And what we're going to do is select all of our compositions and press P on our keyboard to bring up our position properties and set a keyframe. Now let's go forward to about where the circle is once again starting to, let's see, I'm just trying to find the right spot for this. All right, so go right when the circle is almost all the way back to a solid circle before it scales out. And I'm gonna, whoa, what did I just do? So yeah, this is a cool effect though, I promise. It's worth your time. And this actually is not that confusing either, so that's good. Okay, so now that we have that set up, what we're going to do is just go forward on your timeline to, let's say, maybe 2 seconds or so. And we'll go forward to, yeah, about 2.5 seconds. Select all your compositions and just lift them up on the y-axis. So bring them up to about this point on our timeline. All right, so now go, actually what we should do is go down. I think down would be cooler. So let's actually go down first. We're gonna bring it, it doesn't matter, just whatever looks good. Just make sure you're keeping it in the composition window. Don't go outside of it or it's gonna ruin our effect. And then just go forward to maybe a little after 5 seconds and just with all of them selected, lift them up. So that should be making keyframes for everything here. So let's select our keyframes and press F9 on our keyboard. And we're going to do what we did for all the other times. So select all these These we might want to zoom in a little bit. So you can press Z to zoom in with your zoom tool, just like anything else, and space to use your hand tool. So let's select with our selection marquee all these first keyframes, and we're going to go forward as much as we can. Select all these second keyframes with the selection marquee and drag the Bezier handle back. We'll go to the next portion. So grab this and we'll do the same thing on this side. Make sure to keep it on the right line. So make sure your little nodes aren't going up or down, because that'll be changing your coordinates, and we don't want to do that. So I'll drag this one back. Yeah, this graph editor looks like something on a math school. It's not the most user friendly, I don't think, but everything else in After Effects is awesome. So anyway, those are all set up. I have all my my keyframes looking like this, like some crazy stock market crash or something. So I'll click out of my graph editor and we'll just play this real quick to see how it's looking. So so far, let's see. So far, this is looking pretty good. And cool. So now with those all set, what we're going to do, what are we going to do now? Okay, so grab base square 2 to base square 5 and just select these keyframes here. And on your keyboard, hold Alt and do right arrow twice. And then we'll go and select the top 3 and right arrow twice, and holding Alt, or just move it. We're moving the keyframes forward a little bit. And so now, since we have the alpha channels that we have hidden right now, all these layers are going to look like they're moving at different times, as you can see. So that's pretty cool. And that is kind of like the basic idea for a glitch. You just make it look like it's all moving at different times. So I think that looks nice. And now what we're going to do is grab our square glitch, and we're going to put this inside of another composition, and we're going to call this square triple. Whoa, what did I just do? So in your project window, let's call this square triple. And what we're going to do is just grab your square glitch and do Command D. So we're going to have 3 copies of this. Also, I'm going to just grab my hidden guide layer and put it on here just to give us some nice contrast. So now we have our square glitch tripled 3 times. So I'm going to keep the top one. I'm going to press T on my keyboard to bring up my opacity channels. On my square glitch 2, I'm going to set this to 60. And on my square glitch, the bottom one, I'm going to set it to 40. Okay, so now grab your square glitch 2 and 3. And what we're going to do is holding Alt, do page down on your keyboard. Actually, let's just do it once. And also do it for the top one once. So now, as you can see, these layers are going to be slightly staggered. So now when we play our animation, we're going to start to get a blur. It's very subtle. We'll see if it, yeah, we actually, you can kind of see it more there. So let's actually grab this square glitch 2 and do Alt page down one more time, and also for the top one. So we'll stagger it just 2 frames instead of 1 and see if that, yeah, there we go. That's looking a little cooler. Do you see how that's starting to look a little like the computer's spazzing out almost, or something cool's happening? I'm not quite sure. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is, where are we? Okay, so that's all set up. Let's grab our square triple, and we're gonna grab it into and pull it into another composition. So like I said, this is comps inside of comps inside of comps, but I think it's fun. So now we're gonna call this for color, and what we're gonna do is just have our square triple, which is gonna be right here. Let me grab my guide layer one more time, copy that, and paste that into our square triple. And so we have that. We have this nice glitch happening. I'm going to go into my effects and presets and type in glow. And I'm going to grab this stylized glow effect onto my square triple. and I am going to turn my glow intensity up to 6. So it should start to look pretty cool. It just gets very vibrant looking, which I think is a nice effect. Also, what we're going to do is grab a fill. So just press fill and drag this above your glow if you can, or drag your glow under your fill. Might work better. Nice. And I'm going to actually pick the brightest red possible. So it actually already had that selected for me. I'm going to see if these settings are worth changing. So I would turn your glow radius up to 30. I would keep your glow intensity about 6 if you want, and your glow threshold around over 70 would look good. So let's duplicate our square triple layer, and what we're gonna do is go into our fill color, and let's select a super bright yellow. So that looks pretty cool. Let's press R on our keyboard, and we're gonna rotate this 90 degrees. Nice. So let's duplicate this square one more time, and let's select let's go with a purple. It doesn't have to be always the brightest color, but sometimes that looks nice. I might try to find one with good contrast. That looks good. And then I will press R on my keyboard, and I'm going to set this one to 180. And now I'm going to duplicate this one more time, and I am going to make this one like a kind of bluish of some sort. There we go. That looks good. So like a white blue. And I'm going to press R on my keyboard to bring up my rotation and set this to 270. So as you can see, we're already starting to get this really, really cool effect. And we are not even done yet, which is cool. We're just about there, guys. So hang in there. But as you can see, this is starting to look pretty cool. Yeah, I think this looks cool. Hope you guys are digging it. Definitely a different kind of video. And let's see. Yeah, this looks really cool. So let's now we're gonna drag our 4 color into another composition, and we're gonna call this one final. So how good is that, guys? We're making it. We're just about there. So once again, I'm going to grab my guide layer, go into my final composition and paste this. I'm going to right click it and actually set it as a normal layer, so it's going to come out in our render. And now we have something cool to do. We're going to do Command Y on our keyboard and just pick a different color than your background, and I'm going to call this Displace. So now let's go into our effects and presets, and we are going to grab a gradient ramp. So just type in gradient, and we're going to type in ramp, and we're going to grab a gradient ramp, put it on your displace layer. Let's set our ramp shape to a radial ramp, and click your start of the ramp and just try to click in the middle of your composition here. So as you should see, it turns into something like this. And I might also set my end of the ramp a little bit farther out. So maybe move this. That looks good. So yeah, I'm gonna set my end of the ramp to about here on my my composition, or whatever you'd say here. And let's go and type in turbulence, and I want to grab my turbulent displace, and I'm going to put this onto my composition. I'm going to turn my amount, actually I'll probably leave it at that. Just basically option click your evolution, and we're going to add a small expression. Type in time multiply by 400. Just minimize that, and we'll play this real quick and see what we're getting. So as you can see, our ramp is slowly changing. It kind of looks like an ink blot or something. So let's grab our displace and do Shift Command C, and we are going to select Move All Attributes into the new composition, if that's not selected, and I'm just going to call this Master Displace. So now I'm going to move my Master Displace under my 4 color and just hide it with my eye here. And now on my 4 color, I'm going to go into my effects and presets and type in time, and I'm going to grab the time displacement and put this onto my 4-color. And now I'm going to go into my time displacement layer and pick master displace. And then also go into your time resolution, which is your frames per second it will change, and type in 300. And that's just going to make everything much higher quality. And also your max displacement time we're going to set to 0.5, because this alpha that we set with the ramp in the background is going to affect how our animation plays. So I'm going to warn you guys that this does start to get a little bit computer intensive. So if your computer's not great, I would just turn your max resolution down. It'll start going. It just takes a while for the program to figure out what's going on. As you can see, mine is just thinking away. So we'll just wait a second, and you should, and this is also going to be playing back in half resolution, but you should be able to see the effect that happens. Things will like come in at different times and merge together, and it'll basically look super, super cool. So I think this is a very awesome effect, and we got it done in 30 minutes. You can definitely mess around with this effect a ton more if you just want to go back to your base square over here and add more animation going on or different colors. And basically just use these principles to create something awesome. Every time is going to be a little bit different, but I think this is just a really, really awesome looking glitch. Like how that came in right there. I think in the video I showed you guys to start, I probably had my square set up to a different scale, and so that's going to affect it completely different. And also your ramp is going to affect your animation differently every time if it's not the same. But basically, you can use these little tricks to make some really awesome animation inside of After Effects, and it makes you look just much better as a motion graphic artist. You know, it is abstract art. You got to keep that in mind. It would be cool if you wanted to do like a YouTube intro or something with one of these. You could spend a lot of time just tweaking these settings and getting something awesome coming together. But I mean, it looks awesome. I think it kind of reminds me of like 60s or 70s animation, or like a little vintage movie intro or something. So I think that's cool. We'll just let it go for a second. You can also add motion blur to this if you'd like, and things will look awesome. So you just set motion blur on your base square layer, and then just make sure to click this little button here, and things would get much more smoothed out and just look great. So I don't know if I'm going to sit here and make you guys wait for this to do a RAM preview. I might just press space, but as you can see, well, I really wish I could show you guys how this one came out, but you should be able to tell basically the time displacement is going to affect different layers. Like as you can see, we start to get this weird like ripple fall off, and it just looks so cool. So let me see, I'll just play this video one more time and show you what yours can end up looking like, and that'll be about it for today then. So here comes the techno music. Alright, so that's about it for today. This was Summit 21 on Mount MoGraph, and we made the Hyper Glitch. So thanks a lot for checking out the channel, guys. Be sure to leave a like or drop me a comment if you liked this video, want to see more like it. Tomorrow, or maybe even later today, I'm going to be putting up a pixel animation that is going to be pretty cool. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, and make sure to get your learn on.